What's up, everybody? Let me know that we're all good to go. In the meantime, I'm going to do something I haven't been able to do in quite some time. We're going to do some shout outs. We are going to do some shout outs because, well, it's been too long. It's been too long. I'm in a good mood. So, as it loads up, as it loads up, we're gonna do some shout outs. So to give everybody a chance to join in. What's up, Jeffrey? I got Jeffrey Fenton on YouTube. Appreciate you coming in. What else we got? We got anybody on Periscope? You have anybody on Periscope and Twitter? If you are watching, make sure you share this. We're going to try to keep it lighthearted but educational this evening. We're going to get started in about a minute. What's up, Pat? How are you, man? I hope that everything is all right with you. All right, I guess Facebook doesn't want to cooperate, so we're gonna have to share. All right, we're gonna get about 1 minute. Please share this video. We're going to cover the OIG report and what it really means. I don't think a lot of people have actually thought about how or what this actually means. I think people are they're happy about it, but they're not really. Trust me. We're going to do a little deep dive. What's up, Lee? Lee Stranahan from Fault Lines, everybody. If you're on Twitter or Periscope, make sure you give him a little shout out and definitely give him a follow. Great, moderately conservative, but always about truth. All right. What's up, Stephanie? All right, I think that's what's going to do it for the shout outs today. We can go ahead and get started. So, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Today, we are going to be talking about the Andrew McCabe OIG report. I covered it very briefly on my radio show last night. However, I did want to go into the implications and impact of this OIG report that a lot of people maybe haven't really noticed, and it's something I think that's extremely important to cover. So obviously, I think at this point everybody knows that the OIG report obviously did say that McCabe was lying. He lied under oath, and at the very bare minimum, he lacked candor. and he just was trying to purposely mislead somebody. At least that's what it made it seem like. But in my opinion, there's parts of this OIG report that need to be analyzed because of what it means for us, what it means going forward for you, and why we should absolutely be skeptical of not only the news that we received in the past, but the news that we are dealing with in regards to Syria, in regards to Putin, Trump, Hillary. I mean, just the whole cabal. Like, I'm going to go into this. So it's essentially, besides the lack of candor in the IG report, also happened to find that McCabe's leak to the Wall Street Journal was in fact unauthorized. But the details of the chain of events can be found from page 8 to 15 on the OIG report. But back in October 23rd, 2016, Wall Street Journal reported that Delvin Barrett revealed in an article that McCabe's wife received almost $675,000. Interesting. If I recall, I'm almost 100% positive that I've covered this. Y'all are probably tired of me talking about that by now, right? But we covered it here, right? But that was right-wing propaganda, wasn't it? When that conservative right-wing Fox News Trumpster propaganda? Interesting. So a close Clinton confidant, Terry McAuliffe, donated that money for McCabe's wife's Senate run, which, by the way, she lost, but she received that $675,000, as we've discussed time and time again, while her husband was overseeing 2 Hillary Clinton investigations, and McAuliffe himself was under an FBI probe. Okay. After the article published, there was public discussions on whether McCabe was the appropriate person to oversee the Clinton investigations. Eventually, under the urging of Comey and a few others, McCabe recused himself from the 2 investigations. As we know, that came way later on down the line. But then, on October 25th, 2016, after being informed that Barrett was working on a related article that might further implicate McCabe's conflict of interest, interesting. I'm pretty sure that literally since the middle of 2016, before anybody even knew who McCabe was, people like myself, H.A. Goodman, good God, you don't even want to count how many times he's talked about McCabe and his conflict of interest. Hard Bastard talked about his conflict of interest. Tim Black, a progressive. Holly Seeliger, a progressive. Me and Lee have talked about it. Lee's conservative. Garland has talked about it. He's progressive. Interesting, because that's why the reason I'm bringing up the I don't want to say affiliations, but the ideology, more or less, of all the journalists that covered this is because the neoliberals, well, more specifically, the establishment, would have you believe that all this just maybe actually almost a year and a half, 2 years ago, they would have you believe that we're all right-wing, extremist, conservative, Trumpster, Russian bots making up news for clicks and views on Facebook. And that is why Facebook now has a fake news detector where they're using Snopes and PolitiFact, and pretty much everybody bought out by the Clinton camp, or paid off in some way, form, or fashion by the Clinton camp. Like Correct the Record, for example, which is David Brock's. They said that all this started because of things like this. Mind you, once again, and anybody can go to any of my videos, type in Niko House and Andrew McCabe, and you'll see time and time again, I've covered this. And I didn't exaggerate. In fact, I said time and time again. So I'm going to tell you what I said, because anybody, once again, if you're following, you can subscribe, because I said this and nobody, well, you all wanted to listen. But before anybody thought this was interesting, I was talking about this. HA was talking about this. It wasn't just me. The one thing that we all have in common, however, despite our leanings one way or the other, is that we're all independent journalists. And the one thing that no matter what our ideologies, no matter where our ideology may lie, the one thing that we refuse to do is align with the establishment media's narrative. Because we can disagree on how we go about getting things done from time to time. But what we all agree on is that whatever they're doing is much worse than our nuanced discussion about how to achieve a particular goal in politics. Because if we don't take care of any of this stuff, if we don't deal with this, then we're screwed. We're screwed anyway. Stephanie, I see you said to turn up the volume. You might want to make sure that it's not your sound, because a lot of people keep saying that they can hear me fine, but I turned it up a little bit just in case. But anyway, thank you for the super chat, by the way. But anyway, so more than anything, we're primarily concerned with ensuring that the establishment narrative, almost holistically at this point, based in pure lies, is not able to be perpetuated without any type of countermeasure, which we tend to act as, because we have, like, I wish I could cover day-to-day news sometimes, because but like every time I'm about to cover something new, we open up our phones, we look on Twitter, we look on Facebook, and there's another lie. Literally, like right then and there. Like, you wake up. I know I'm not the only independent journalist out there that gets anxiety before waking up and looking at Twitter or Facebook or checking your messages, because you're like, Lord Jesus, I had so much planned today. I'm not prepared for this, but I'm going to go ahead and look at it. Oh, God, look, World War III just started. I had so much planned this week. Seriously. And then we can't talk about, I try my hardest, but we can't talk about all the nuances and details of new topics sometimes. Like, I like to educate people on the Syria conflict or whatever. I don't only want to have to talk about, oh my God, if you believe the nonsense about the chemicals attack with absolutely no proof, then you're an idiot, and this is why, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I have to spend an hour breaking that down, because I don't want people to blindly believe nonsense. So I can't even go into, this is what you actually should know about Assad. I mean, I do, but it takes a lot longer to do that, and people become disengaged. So, and exhausted, quite honestly, because it is a lot of information that comes at you at once. But I want to go into this. I want to go in a little bit further into this summary. It says once again that McCabe had conflict of interest overseeing the investigation, and that McCabe authorized Page and another official from the Office of Public Affairs to talk to Barrett regarding the Clinton Foundation investigation, and to disclose his August 12th, 2016 phone call with the Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General of the Department of Justice. According to McCabe, the phone call with the PATAG, that's what I call that, the PATAG, Principal Associate Attorney General, it was heated. The PATAG expressed concerns about FBI agents taking overt steps in the Clinton Foundation investigation during the presidential campaign. According to McCabe, he pushed back, asking, "Are you telling me that I need to shut down a validly predicated investigation?" If we trust McCabe's recollection, this is another bombshell that Loretta Lynch's DOJ tried to help the Clinton campaign by pressuring the FBI during an active investigation. So, we now know for a fact McCabe lied under oath. Mind you, okay, y'all know how I feel about Trump. I'm not his biggest fan. But this is something that Trump had alleged, that we talked about, because the stories were conflicting. All of their stories were conflicting. So we know either him, Comey, or both lied under oath, which it looks like both of them did. Trump talked about this, and because Trump tweeted about it, anybody who discussed it, right-wing propagandists, we're Russia bots. So we know that for a fact. In the OIG report, Office of Inspector General, that investigated this because of McCabe being fired, by the way, by the FBI, which they don't want to talk about that fact either. He wasn't fired by Donald Trump. In fact, this is one of the few times that Donald Trump took the necessary steps and followed the correct process to get this done. That's the only reason we have what we have right now. But he had conflict of interest. Clinton confidants were paying his wife during an active investigation. That was fake news too. That was fake news too. That was fake news. That's what they were telling us. Oh, but that was Putin. Putin was telling y'all that. So, according to CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, and all that other nonsense, the OIG is clearly a Russian bot. That's what we can gather from all of this. But, like I said, we all said that the Clinton investigation absolutely deserved to be investigated. Or, excuse me, the Clinton Foundation absolutely deserved to be investigated. It needed to be investigated. And there was even people in the intelligence communities that were saying that they do not believe that the Clinton Foundation is going investigated. However, or in some said straight out that it was happening. But if you recall, in the Hill, which they kind of slipped it in there, I don't know if they meant to or not, in the Hill, it actually said that the Department of Justice was actively opposing the Clinton Foundation investigation that was based out of Arkansas. And so they were trying to essentially stop the investigation that had been happening. And this was in a Hill article. This was a long time ago that this came out. But people kind of like brushed it off. Didn't think anything was important. So there was an active investigation during the election. Okay? Loretta Lynch clearly tried to stop it. So we were all right about Loretta Lynch. Loretta Lynch works for who? Loretta Lynch works for the President of the United States of America. So we were absolutely correct about Obama being involved in it to at least some degree. So H.A. Goodman was in a sense right when he said that Hillary Clinton, by all intents and purposes, by every law, would have been indicted under any other circumstances, until we come later to find out that not only have Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Barack Obama, Eric Holden, Loretta Lynch, I mean, we don't find out that they've just developed a recent relationship. We find out that they have been working together since the 90s in some cases. In the case of James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Eric Holden, and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, they've been working together since the 90s. When you consider that a small conflict of interest, just a little bit. So we know that's true. We've been saying the Clinton Foundation was under an active investigation. And now we have to take an even further deep dive, right? Because if you can openly discuss the contents or what could have possibly been found and what had not been found of an email investigation that told really the entire world, let's be very honest about that, told the entire world Hillary Clinton does not have the aptitude to just simply maintain a basic email server in the correct way. So you tell us she literally has gotten people killed because of her using names that she wasn't supposed to use, sending out top secret emails on an unsecured server, which she wasn't supposed to do. So you can talk about that. during an election. But you're also simultaneously investigating her Clinton Foundation, which also, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, means that they knew about Uranium One. They knew that Hillary Clinton, that Eric Holden, that to a degree Loretta Lynch, because she never did anything about it. The Department of was it Agriculture? Department it was a few departments. I'm gonna put it like that. My point is that this was being investigated. So now we know, because what's my motto, everybody? It's human nature to blame others for the thing, especially in American politics. You blame others for the things that you are guilty of. It's true. So I know we've all seen this pretty consistent pattern of Hillary Clinton saying Trump did this, Trump is friends with Putin and Russia, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, Trump has financial interests with Russia, and it turns out that it's actually Tony Podesta that has interests with Juul, for example. 40,000 shares with Juul while he was with President Obama. So if Clinton Foundation was under investigation actively during the election and during the State Department situation, do you think that potentially, sorry everybody, but do you think that potentially Andrew McCabe or James Comey or even Loretta Lynch or even Eric Holden or even Obama, probably Obama, more than likely Obama, or even Bill, I mean, let's go in, let's think about this. Do you think that they probably thought, hey, they are on your tail, they on your ass, we need to figure this Russia stuff out, and we need to use it to our advantage because it's going to screw us over? Because the Russia nonsense literally came out of nowhere. Like, we thought we were working on maintaining better relationship with Russia, which is why we hadn't gotten as involved in Syria as we had wanted to in the beginning. Because we knew that would antagonize them. So, Hillary Clinton, under the think about it. She first said it was Russia, but it was like a hacker from Russia. Remember, because with the DNC thing, it was like a Russian hacker. It wasn't the Russian government. So there was levels to it. There was levels to it. Then the next step was, I have a 99% chance of winning, so we'll just focus on it being a Russian hacker. It's a Russian hacker, it's a Russian hacker, it's a Russian hacker. And then the 99% chance of winning turned into a 99% chance of getting her ass whooped. And all of a sudden, it's not a Russian hacker anymore. It's Putin himself. Dum, dum, dum. So it evolves from it being a Russian hacker to Putin himself. And now, obviously and then everybody who were drawing these connections that for me seem pretty obvious, like she's just blaming them for what she's guilty of. The election, remember whenever Trump said, well, we're going to be looking out for election fraud. And Obama had the audacity to pretend that election fraud didn't exist, and he laughed at Trump. So this is some third world country. Like, bro, third world countries probably have better elections than we do. Our elections are a facade at the national level. But he laughed it off like Barack Obama didn't try to sue Hillary Clinton during his primary, because election fraud doesn't exist. So obviously, there were different spins in one form or another as to what it meant, what it was about, whatever. But I do want to say this. As far as Hillary Clinton is concerned, as far as the establishment is concerned, as far as the establishment journalists are concerned, as far as Trump's relationship with Putin is concerned, as far as Russia's relationship with us is concerned, we're going to disregard spin. But every single independent journalist who went against the establishment media was 100% right about the facts. We were so right. We were so right, people. They went on it, which we guessed that. We gathered that. But this is a little vindicating because we were so right that they started an entire campaign to label all of us as fake news, to throttle us back, to demonetize us on particular platforms, to elevate establishment voices above ours, to pay people like the Young Turks $20 million and then claim, from the establishment, and then claim that they're independent to minimize the importance of our voice, or at the very bare minimum, cause disarray within the progressive community or in the independent journalist community, and convince you, nah, those are fake independent journalists. Thanks for the super chat, R. Griffey. Appreciate it. But it means that for those of you who have been getting all of your information, most of your facts from independent journalists, that you are 100% right for coming to us. Think about that. Think about what that means for every narrative we've heard since the election. That means if you heard it from a well-balanced independent journalist, the likelihood of them being right, even when we've been forced to make educated guesses because they've withheld information from us. Even in scenarios like that, we've been 100% right. At least I can speak for myself and a couple of others. Not everyone's on the same page, but you get my point. The election fraud, Russia, Trump. We used to say we're absolutely sure that Trump is guilty of something. But Trump he's not to be able to plan something like that out that far in advance and to think Putin would be stupid enough to get caught is laughable. I'm sorry. That's not his thing. He's not a 3D chess player. He's more of like a brute who imposes his will and power on people by bullying. That's not the same. Hillary is, however, a 3D chess player, and she planned this out long in advance. She started running for the election 7 years ago. So that means what we're saying about Mueller, and when I commended Trump for firing Comey, yeah, look at the reports, people. He needed to be fired. He was right for firing him. Now, I will say this. He did it better. He went about it in a much better way when it comes to McCabe, because now we get the reports that detail everything. When I said I would absolutely prefer Donald Trump to Hillary Clinton, and people were saying, well, what about the Supreme Court? I said, that is a propagandist. That's a propagandist psyop mission convincing you all that for some reason Hillary Clinton would actually put a progressive at the Supreme Court position, knowing that she would lose she would lose most of the seats to the Republicans, because that's just simply how politics work. But also, people don't like her. So even if she managed to cheat and get herself in, remember that her number one goal, that she made it perfectly clear from the beginning, was going to be to get TPP passed, and she only had one concession she could make, because she was not going to have the Senate and the Congress that she need. So she was going to give up that U.S. Supreme Court seat, which is the only reason she would talk about it, because that's the only time Hillary Clinton talks about anything is when she's willing to use it as a bargaining chip, because that's her history. So that means we were correct about that. But more importantly, I was also correct about the fact that if Hillary Clinton gets in office, we would not see accountability at the level that we needed. And people say, well, if the Republicans get in office, we have all these problems. And I will agree. You are correct to a degree. The problems that the Republicans can and have and will probably cause in the future are reconcilable and replaceable. They're not going to be able to resegregate schools. They're not going to ban interracial marriage. They're not going to ban same-sex marriage or marriage equality. They're not going to ban all Muslims. As a matter of fact, the Supreme Court actually just overturned that automatic deportation once convicted law. That just got overturned under Trump's presidency because a conservative switched to the left on that one. Now under Clinton, you have a corporatist Supreme Court, which means every single one of them walk. You have administrative influence that would essentially mean no matter what the Senate Judiciary Committee does, the DOJ wouldn't do anything about it. James Comey would still be in power. Andrew McCabe would still be in power. Loretta Lynch would still be in power. We would be going to war with Syria now. Right now. So the only way that we could be pragmatic in our search for accountability was to do what works, which is count on Republicans to be petty, because they will. And they did, and they have, and look where it's gotten us. Now, if you don't like Republicans, you can now vote them out and put in the people you want, to a degree, because we know our elections are a farce, but you can do what you can. Andrew McCabe's biggest screw-ups, James Comey's biggest screw-ups, have inadvertently let us know that the independent journalists, along with all of you awesome researchers out there that are, you research for your favorite independent journalist part-time, and you don't get paid a dime, but you send us information and we greatly appreciate it. But we have been right. Even the ones that who like myself, who are very progressive, that have come under fire. I've come under fire for telling the truth about the left, or about people on the left. I've come under fire for telling the truth about Israel. I talked about Israel last night. If you haven't seen that video, Israel launched 9 missiles. They lost 9 missiles yesterday into Syria. This was reported at 1 a.m. in the morning from the Syrian military. And it wasn't 9 missiles, maybe. At first they said, we think this is what happened. But then what happened was they said, no, actually, the Syrian military confirmed. Now, a few hours later, guess what MSN decided to report? MSN decided to report that the Syrian military made a mistake. And that it actually wasn't missiles. That something set off their missile defense systems, and it was a mistake. Oh, well, who reported it to you? Well, this guy in the Syrian military only reported it to us if he could remain anonymous. No. Hell no. You don't get to play the anonymity card anymore. You don't get that privilege. As of now, independent media is infinitely more reliable than you are. And I would even go further to say that if we accidentally make a mistake, then we reserve the right to be forgiven for our mistakes, because people have at least seen that we can make a mistake, but it is with good intentions that the mistake was made. Whereas if CNN or MSNBC or even Fox News to a degree does the same thing, it was nefarious, and it was not a mistake. It was done on purpose, which is why they've had to retract article after article after article after article after article after story after story after story, and yet we have not had to retract one story. We've not had to retract anything about Seth Rich. We have not had to retract anything about Kim.com. We've not had to retract anything about the Clinton Foundation. We haven't had to retract anything about the Russiagate story. We haven't had to retract anything about Syria, about Assad, about Libya, about, the list goes on, about McCabe, about James Comey, about Loretta Lynch, about Uranium One. But you want to convince us that we're wrong and we're lying about Syria. And that was a mistake. And it was just somebody who told us this information based off of anonymity. But nobody else in the Middle East is reporting that, except for maybe Israel. But this is the same country, people, by the way, the same country who refuses to go in unless it's 100% on their terms. But Assad is smart, because he knows exactly what they want to do. Like, you can't tell me you want to investigate the chemical weapon situation. By the way, the same chemical weapon situation that Macron now is claiming, he got rid of all the chemical weapons in 2 days. They just magically disappeared. When Assad invited you all in, you launched rockets at him. And now you're trying to claim you want an investigation. Now, once again, we've been pretty right thus far, right? So y'all can vibe with me. Y'all can trust me on my logic on this one, because I'm getting pretty good at this. Now, when I ask for an investigation, you launch rockets at me, you don't know the casualty count because you haven't released it. Remember I told y'all for the last 4 days I've been telling y'all, Google the casualty count. You cannot find it. Syria, their military, by the way, direct military reports, because that's what I've been getting, because fuck American media, fuck European media for that matter. Their reports have showed that 70% of those rockets got blown out of the sky because their missile defense systems are that good. Thank God. But you get offered to come in and investigate. You launch missiles instead, and now you want to say that Assad isn't letting us do what we want to, blah, 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 blah. What it seems like to me is what you want to do is use the OPCW to come in after the missile strikes so that you can assess the damage, so that you can see what Assad's capabilities are before you invade. Because when Assad has offered you time and time again to come in under reasonable terms during times of peace, remember that there was only one woman who did that. That was Tulsi Gabbard, representative for Hawaii. And whenever Tulsi Gabbard went, you want to know what the media did? They went on a relentless assault because she came back, and they were pissed not about what she found out. They lambasted her for even going because she didn't tell them, because she knew how the mainstream media would respond. But here's what's even better. It wasn't the right who criticized her or the left who criticized her. It was both sides of the establishment. Tulsi Gabbard came back and said, the Syrian people just want peace. That's not what made the news. What made the news is that Tulsi Gabbard met with the killer. I was like, hold on. So we're upset because our congresswoman thought before we ever start talking about legislation about how to end tyranny and terrorism, or how to deal with Assad in general, then maybe we should do the responsible thing and meet with this person. Let's try to reason for the lives of the innocent people so that we do not have to go into a needless war and we can find a common ground. That's what I call a damn good representative, if you ask me. And if any of them had any balls, they would have went with her. They would have encouraged her and they would have commended her for trying to be a peacekeeper and a diplomat that all of our leaders refused to be. And when she came back from this ridiculous, like, she was like, there's nobody fighting Assad right now but rebels that we paid in terrorist organizations that we also pay. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to introduce a Stop Funding Terrorism bill. You know what happened? Both the Democrats and the Republicans killed it. Neither the right wing or the left wing media covered it. And I'm going to be so happy if one day, hopefully soon, she announces that she's going to run for office. Because as much as I love Bernie, even Bernie needs to be sat on that stage. Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, all of them. Because I'm tired of lives being senselessly lost while they play political games domestically at home. I have everything I need. My car works fine. I have air conditioner. I have my computer and I have internet. And I don't have to worry about whether I'm going to be blown up the next day. But while y'all sit in the White House, while you sit in Congress and the Senate, and play pity pat with Donald Trump, and complain about Stormy Daniels, and make up lies about the Russia scandal, kids lost their lives this weekend. Right now, according to all the other independent sources that have investigated, the lives that were lost from that chemical attack were from terrorists that we have funded. And lives that were lost in that missile strike in a capital city were innocent civilians that we have funded. Or excuse me, that we took the lives of. So I don't have time for the games anymore. If you were complicit, in giving the media free range to push fake news, and that which allows the president to make rash decisions based off of evidence that is totally non-existent, while excuses upon excuses upon excuses pile up, while accusations and demonization of a man who he's like, okay, why is it that you can just attack me with no evidence? But if I call you out for it, I'm a monster. And anybody who says, well, yeah, I think he has a good point. If you're going to attack his country, shouldn't we have evidence? So when Tulsi Gabbard stands on that stage alongside Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Joe Biden, Kirsten Gillibrand, because you know all of them about to step on the stage. It's about to be a brawl. There is only one person who can challenge that entire group and say, I introduced a legislation to stop funding terrorism. Where did you vote? And why did you vote that way? Whenever we introduce legislation to end the genocide of the Yemeni people from Saudi Arabia, our allies, where did you vote? Whenever I have called out Saudi Arabia time and time again for not only human rights violations abroad, but domestically right in their own home, where were your voices? So after that Syrian attack, or excuse me, that attack on Syria, I woke up that next day with an entire different perspective on where I stood with Bernie and Tulsi. Because I know that, and as well as you all know, that if whether or not you like Bernie Sanders or not, he has an impact. But he has an impact before, but you can't be reactionary after. And as a person who considers himself a Bernie Sanders fan, I was extremely disappointed with that response. Oh, the president must get Congress's approval before he commits a fucking atrocity. The comment should have been, I don't give a damn if he would have submitted it to Congress or not, because it was wrong and we would have voted against it anyway because we have absolutely no proof whatsoever. Not to mention, Bernie's never been to Syria. He's saying that everything, he's saying that Assad is guilty. Kirsten Gillibrand saying the side is guilty. Elizabeth Warren's kind of stayed out of it. Cory Booker, being Cory Booker, whining somewhere. The only person, and like I said, it was impactful to me because I'm like, wow, there's only one person that we can guarantee for a 100% chance that if she was in office, out of those candidates, those lives wouldn't have been lost. Our problems domestically suck, but that fake news that we're getting that are affecting our lives domestically, that are affecting our elections domestically, at least we have some autonomy. At least we can have these conversations. At least we're on the other side of the barrel of the gun. I can, like I said, when people were talking about how racist Trump was and how racist Republicans are, people, I'm black in America. Racism didn't get invented yesterday. Alabama isn't going to all of a sudden become more Alabama. New York isn't going to all of a sudden turn into Alabama. The establishment is going to be the establishment regardless. But the decisions that these leaders make oftentimes for us doesn't lead to a bomb being dropped on our heads. But for those people abroad, it does. They're the last decision, and they're basing their decisions off of fake news, by the way. That president is the barrier between an innocent life being lost in the middle of the night, crying because there is absolutely nothing they can do. Think of how frustrating it must be to be a Syrian, to be a Palestinian, to be an Iranian, when you just want to scream out what you're reading isn't true. It's all lies. It's for money. It's for profit. It's for Israel. It's for Saudi Arabia. It's for the oil tycoons. It's for the GMCs. It's for the General Electrics. It's for Nestle. But they can't hear you scream over the missiles that they're launching and the sound of explosions going off in front of your house. That is why this article is so important. This article shows that the independent journalists, they may not get it right 100% of the time, but they damn sure get it right 95% of the time. And the more they try to punish us, you see they've even changed the narrative. It's no longer fake news. They're saying it's an information war with Russia now. Because if you say fake news, you link fake news with Donald Trump, but they like Donald Trump now because he's launching missiles at Syria and they have a new objective. We found out that he's malleable. We can get him to do what we want to. So we have to kind of change the narrative where we still focus on Russia, but we take negative attention away from Trump. We take the conversation away from Trump and only focus it on how bad Assad is, how much Syria needs us, and how Donald Trump is doing what we need him to do now. And then even pressure him, because you've seen a lot of that as well from the neoliberals, pressure him into doing more, because they've been doing that. That is why. That is what this article shows, is that everything they are telling us, especially they've ramped the fake news up, really, but everything they have telling us, everything they've accused us of, it's been a lie. But most importantly, everything that we have been discussing has been truth. There's no conspiracy theory here. In fact, it has officially become the job of the independent journalist to actively combat the conspiracy theorists at CNN, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, and all the establishment media outlets. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Please subscribe if you have not. Make sure you do that. Check out my last video. Syria was attacked by Israel last night, and it's really beginning to look like Israel could be trying to draw us into a war with Iran, because they're getting antsy because our methods don't really work anymore. We got Gaddafi, and that was like the last thing. That's the last thing that we've ever done. Like, I don't really believe we got Osama. I think the CIA paid him off because he used to work for the CIA. And plus, let me tell you something about Osama, people. And I really want you to think about this, because you want to talk about a conspiracy theory. You really think that the Saudi royal family would allow us to gallivant all around the Middle East trying to kill one of their own? Because Osama was a member of the royal family. You really think that they will allow us to do that? No. So I don't even believe we killed Osama. And I keep hearing that the SEAL 6, every time somebody tries to ask them what happened, something happens to them. I need to do more research on that. But if you got any links about that, drop it. But I heard like one of them died, another one killed himself or something like that. Some craziness. But the moral of the story is Assad and Iran are powerful, and they're beacons because they refuse to let Western imperialism overtake them. Israel is losing its power because even their own people are leaving the country and taking a step back and like, what the hell are we doing over there? And understand something, people. Like I said, Israel is committing atrocities every day. And if you want to know, if you're on the side of the people, if you're one of those people who have been critiquing, like, or attacking or condemning the white South Africans who have gotten hurt in the farm situation, which there's never a reason. Well, I don't say never a reason, but it could have been handled and should have been handled better. There's never a reason for lives to be lost if it's preventable. But I'm about the solutions, right? And I'm about learning from my past. So maybe, just maybe, Israel better start learning something from South Africa. Because if you don't know the history, the apartheid didn't just end. The apartheid didn't just end like 200 years ago or 100 years ago. The apartheid ended 27 years ago. That means that there were people who either lost the land, that they actively were forcibly removed out of that land. Their parents were actively or forcibly removed out of that land. There were Africans who lost their lives so that 90% of all the land owned was owned by white people and corporatists, even though white people in South Africa only make up 8% of the population. Now compare that to Israel. You walk into their land and make it a settlement. You take it. You've made money off of it. You've murdered them. You've committed atrocity after atrocity after atrocity. Now, all the people who keep saying, oh, well, you should just get over it. Okay, that's fine. I am one of those people who are about moving forward. But in order to move forward, you have to acknowledge that you are doing something wrong, which requires more than just not being racist. Like, you can not be racist all you want to, but that doesn't actively fix the oppression, nor does it put pressure on the government. Because if I'm an Israeli citizen, just like if I was a South African, I'd be out like, y'all, we got to fix these problems because I'm not trying to get killed. They're going to get pissed off eventually. Think about that. Think about what happened in South Africa and then compare it to the 12-year-old, I'm just speaking generally, the 12-year-old who straps a bomb to his chest and goes into Tel Aviv or Jerusalem and bombs somebody. If I'm 12, you took my family, you took my house, I don't even have running water in the summertime because you siphoned it off for Israel. I have absolutely nothing to live for because no matter what happens here, I'm going to be discriminated against. I have nothing to live for, and you're surprised that I'm in your city right now with a bomb strapped to my chest. Because in my mind, I'm a dead man anyway. So at least I can do is take one of yours with me. There is no effect without cause. There's no effect without cause. And for all of us, my logic is pretty consistent, right? Why do I speak out about Syria? Why do I speak out about Russia? Because one day the chickens are gonna come to roost. And I want to say that I could do, and that I did and I can do my part to counter those false narratives and to counter the oppressive rhetoric for those who cannot speak for themselves because they're being silenced by the monetary interests that love to keep us confused and conflicted in fighting each other. It is scary to me that every day I have to wonder when Assad and Putin are going to say, you know what? Damn this, I've had enough. That's a scary thought. Because, I'm reading the news internationally. I'm like, yo, we are literally just lying to people while simultaneously taking lives. We are lying through, and the lies aren't even good anymore. The lies aren't even good anymore. And luckily, we're supposed to be convinced that Assad is a monster and Putin is a monster. We launch missiles based off of random unsubstantiated, unproven reports from rebel terrorists. By the way, we launched those missiles based off of reports from terrorist groups. Putin and Assad know we're lying. Putin and Assad know that we're paying Saudi Arabia as they bomb Yemen. Putin and Assad know that we're paying Israel as they bomb Syria and Iran. Assad has lost soldier after soldier after soldier after soldier after child after man after woman from rebel groups paid with our money. And they have not taken the lives of an American. They have not, in a petty way, banned us from their countries. And we're supposed to consider them the monsters? You launched a fucking missile strike with the fucking push of a button based off of rebel terrorist info without even proving it. They keep saying that Putin is threatening a world war. I'm goddamn surprised that Putin hasn't already set it off. Could you really be mad? Could you really be mad? Putin has shown so much restraint. Assad has shown so much restraint. The problem is, Gaddafi showed restraint too. Saddam showed restraint too. Fidel showed restraint, but it was a different situation. He was a savvy kind of guy. But Maurice Bishop of Grenada showed restraint as well. The first secular prime minister of Iran showed restraint too. The first president of Brazil that attempted to separate themselves totally from I can't remember his name right now. I believe his name is Zhao. Oh yeah, his name was Zhao. President Zhao. He tried to separate himself from the United States too, and their economy is still inflammatory, and they got him out. So, unfortunately, the pattern shows that restraint practiced with these leaders ends up to them being lost because they are so dedicated to minimizing casualties and lives lost. And our government is so fucking heartless that they don't have a problem giving that order. Think about that. We're so noble and morally justified that we created right-wing extremism, people. Great Britain installed Saudi Arabia, where Wahhabism and Sharia law that Alex Jones is always fear-mongering about. Great Britain was the one who created it, and you know who was in charge of Great Britain when that happened? The Tories, our versions of the Republicans. Because we like authoritarian-based, religion-dominant leaders because they keep the masses in control and they give us what the hell we want. What is one thing that the Tories, the Republicans of old, and some of the new Republicans, according to the former Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense, the black guy, y'all know who I'm talking about. He came out and said the Republican Party, most of his Republican Party is racist. Colin Powell came out and said that most of the Republican Party is racist. So what is the one thing that authoritarian regimes and dictatorships that we install and the right extremist wing, the Tea Party wing, the establishment Republican wing, and the Tories of Great Britain, what do they all have in common? Well, the Tories of old. Some of the new Tories are kind of, they're okay, but some of the Republicans kind of too. But the overall majority, they're hyper-religious, believing in a blind authority, believing that authority gives them the ability to do whatever the hell they want to without being questioned. They believe that they're superior in race, and they actually work actively to kick the minority out of their country. Which is why every government you see us kick out, we install with a racist dictator. So, thank you all so much for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Make sure you donate to our One Follow $1 campaign on Patreon. You can do so by clicking on the Patreon link in the description below. Or you can go to www.patreon.com/mikasesukasa. Help support the network. Help us continue to grow. Really appreciate all the support that we've given thus far. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast too. If you go to Podbean, you can just MCSC Politics, or you can go to iTunes at Mikasesukasa. I come up pretty fast. Visit the website. But most importantly, above all else, ladies and gentlemen, always remember, find your balance. Peace.